Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chloe. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, please hit that subscribe button below and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm uploading a new video. I'm going to continue with part 2 of my presidential highlights for William McKinley because he had so much stuff that happened when he was in office. So we're starting with the last 2 years of his presidency. So let's continue on. So January 20th, 1899, the First Philippine Commission. The president appoints Jacob Gould Sherman as chairman. February 4th, 1899, the Battle of Manila. It was led by Emilio Aguinaldo. Largest battle of the Philippine-U.S. War. The initial skirmishes killed 57 and wounded 215. February 6, 1899, the peace treaty was ratified between Spain and the U.S. Of a vote of 57 to 27. U.S. gains Guam and Puerto Rico and a temporary administration of Cuba. U.S. pays $20 million for some Filipino holdings. February 14th, 1899, Valentine's Day, voting machines. So Congress authorizes new voting machines for federal elections. May 29th, 1899, the retreat from civil service reform. The president exempts 3,000 to 4,000 positions. July 19th, 1899, the Secretary of War, Russell A. Alger, resigns. It takes effect on August 1st after the Dodge Commission criticizes the War Department's handling of the war, and he was replaced by Elihu Root. I think that's how I said it. Okay, now just a brief mention here. I'll mention more of this at the end of this because it was not in the key events, but July 20th, 1899 was the start of the Newsies strike. So I'll get into that at the end. September 6th, 1899, the open door notes to Britain, France, Russia, and Japan. John Hay, if you remember, he was the Secretary of State, I believe, calls for a broad multilateral access to the Chinese markets and also the preservation of the Chinese Empire sovereignty. November 1st, 1899, the first presidential car ride. It was in the Stanley Steamer, which today we know is a carpet cleaning business, and it took place in the president's hometown of Canton, Ohio. December 5th, 1899, McKinley's third Congress address. He focuses on foreign affairs, and he also wants to beef up the U.S. Navy. February 5th, 1900, Hay-Pauncefote Treaty, or Pauncefote Treaty, maybe. Again, don't murder me for mispronouncing these names. Between the Britain and the U.S., the Britain and the U.S. signed the treaty. It provides Isthmian Canal in Central America. So not the Panama Canal, but the Isthmian Canal. March 7th, 1900, the Gold Standard Act. Now, we've all heard, the gold standard, the gold standard. So this is kind of what it's about. It fixes the standard value for all money issued or coined. It was a victory for what they called the gold bugs, the people that preferred gold over silver in the North. And it was a defeat for the silver forces in the South, because the South wanted more silver coinage and the North wanted more gold coinage. So gold won out at that point. Kind of like the Union defeated the Confederates. May 24th, 1900, Carnegie Steel Company Incorporated. It was organized in 1899 and it was incorporated in New Jersey at $160 million. Now, I'm not sure if that's the first company that ever became incorporated, and that's why it was such a big deal. It didn't mention that. April 7th, 1900, the Second Philippine Commission. It was chaired by William Howard Taft, which he is an upcoming president, I believe. April 30th, 1900, the territory of Hawaii was established. June 19th, 1900, the Republican National Convention renominates McKinley, and the Spanish-American War hero and New York Governor Theodore Roosevelt was nominated as vice president. Despite what you all think, he wasn't Robin Williams. June 21st, 1900, the amnesty in the Philippines. It was issued by the military governor of the Philippines. July 3rd, 1900, the second open door note was issued. John Hay issues the circular letter stating the U.S. wants to keep China intact in the midst of the Boxer Rebellion. And it didn't go into more detail about the Boxer Rebellion. So if you want to know, comment below and I'll look that up for you. July 5th, 1900, the Democratic National Convention nominates William Jennings Bryan with Adlai E. Stevenson as vice president. And if you remember, he was also the vice president for a previous president, which was Grover Cleveland in his second term, I believe. Possibly. Yeah, second term. July 12, 1900, McKinley formally accepts the nomination. It happened in Canton, Ohio, and the slogan for it was 4 more years of the full dinner pail. November 6, 1900, McKinley was reelected. Theodore Roosevelt was vice president. There were 292 to 155 electoral votes. December 3rd, 1900, the McKinley's 4th Congress address. He talks about the China problem. My hair is always making a mess of my videos. So, pardon my hair. I tried to make it look nice. December 20th, 1900, the Hay-Paunce-Fort Treaty ratified. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. Paunce-Fort. Could be. Britain agrees to the U.S. Canal with a condition that it be neutral and unfortified. It abrogates the Clayton-Bulwer Treaty of 1850. December 29th, 1900, negotiating the Dutch West Indies, which eventually becomes the U.S. Virgin Islands. It allows Congress to get funds for the transfer, but it doesn't occur until 1917. January 10th, 1901, the first great oil strike in Texas, near Beaumont, Texas. March 1st, 1901, the Platt Amendment. It governs future relations between the U.S. and Cuba. You see me always looking off to the side. I have my camera set up in my room, and I've got a mirror behind it to make sure that it's still recording. That's why I keep looking off to the side to make sure that I'm not over my time limit. Okay, so let me start this again. March 1st, 1901, the Platt Amendment. It governs future relations between U.S. and Canada. Part of the Army Appropriation Act of 1901, and it allows U.S. intervention in Cuban domestic affairs against threats from other countries, or other powers, actually. March 4th, 1901, McKinley was inaugurated. He calls for the Filipino rebellion to end without further bloodshed. The same day, George H. White leaves Congress. He was from North Carolina, and he was the last black member to serve more than 25 years. March 11th, 1901, British reject the Hay-Paunce-Fort Treaty as amended by the Senate. So there was an amendment, and then Britain rejected it. November 23rd, 1901, Filipino resistance leader captured. Emilio Aguinaldo signs the oath of allegiance to the U.S. April 19th, 1901, the rebellion in the Philippines ends. By proclamation, the fighting continues for one more year before it ends completely. June 11th, 1901, McKinley declines to run again. September 5th, 1901, the tariff reciprocity. Speaking in Buffalo, New York, the president endorses the concept, and it's the last speech by McKinley, because on September 6th, 1901, McKinley was shot by a man by the name of Leon Czolgosz, I believe. His last name is spelled Czolgosz. And he shoots McKinley in the stomach at a Pan American exposition in Buffalo, New York. Leon admits to shooting him with no remorse. He was an anarchist. And Leon died in the electric chair on October 29th, 1901. But McKinley doesn't die right away. September 14th, 1901 is when McKinley actually dies. So Teddy Roosevelt takes the oath of office. The nation mourned McKinley's death for 1 month. The funeral was held in Canton, Ohio, and there was a monument erected in 1907. So that was his whole term in office in 2 different videos. Now, about the Newsies strike. For those of you who have never seen Newsies, whether it be the movie or the play made into a movie, July 20th, 1899, as I had mentioned earlier, there was a Newsies strike, and it was headed by a child named Kid Blink, not Jack. The reason for the strike was that Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst raised the prices to the Newsies for selling their papers, the World and the Journal. So Pulitzer owned the World and Hearst owned the Journal. And they raised it from 50 cents. Like, the Newsies would have to buy the papers, and then they would go out and sell them, and then whatever money they made from the papers, that's what they would keep. So that's how they were making the money. So they had to pay more money for the newspapers than what they got for the papers, for the inflation part of it or whatever. So Pulitzer decided that he wanted more money. So he was trying to figure out how to do it. Now, this is going off of the movie and the play, which basically they're the same thing, but just told a little bit differently. What happened was Pulitzer met with his people, and the people were saying, how about we raise the price of the papers for what the Newsies buy them for? So Pulitzer's like, oh yeah, that's a really good idea. So Pulitzer was a very powerful man back then, so anything he said, people did. So what happened was, for 100 papers, they would spend the Newsies would buy the 100 papers for 50 cents. And they raised it to 60 cents. Pulitzer raised it to 60 cents and got all the other newspaper moguls to do the same thing, so that all the Newsies, not just his Newsies, but all the Newsies that sold any papers, would have to pay a higher price. And so the Newsies decided to go on strike because of it, because they were poor already. And they fought and they fought and they fought, and it ended up that even though they didn't lower the price of the papers to end the strike, they decided not to raise the price of papers again. And for like a certain amount of time, I think it was like 2 years or 5 years or something like that. So then they ended the strike. And then the Newsies still had to pay 60 cents for 100 papers. But then also, any newspaper that the Newsies couldn't sell, all the newspaper moguls would have to buy back what the Newsies couldn't sell to the Newsies at full price. So that took place during McKinley's time. So if you haven't seen it, Newsies, the play, the Broadway play, is on Disney Plus, and it was from the 1992 movie that starred Christian Bale as Jack and some other kids that you probably would recognize. And that was an actual movie that they made about the Newsy Strike. So check that out. That's a Disney movie. You might see that on Netflix, maybe? I'm not sure. But, so it was a movie first, and then they made it into a play, and the play is slightly different than the movie, so if you want to watch one or both, or whatever. So tomorrow we will be talking about Theodore Roosevelt, who served 2 terms. He was our 26th president. So I hope you guys are having a good day. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, and we've all taken a collective breath. The torch has now been passed, and so we're on to a new administration. So, as Aaron Burr would say, talk less, smile more. So, with that being said, come back tomorrow for Teddy Roosevelt, and class will be dismissed. You guys have a sunny day.